Welcome back, Lying Golf Academy members. Don't lift your arms in the backswing. Today we're going to be watching this video. This video was submitted to me by one of our subscribers. He watched it, fell down the YouTube rabbit hole, wanted to know my opinion. Instead of me watching this alone, I wanted to bring you along the journey. Now we're going to watch this. It's 20 minutes long. I'm not going to subject you to the whole video, so if you do see me skip around, it's because I've gone and edited this afterwards, so you don't have to watch the whole thing with me, but we'll just get to the meat and potatoes of what we feel about this, and will it apply to you? Okay, let's jump right into this video.
Well, today we get to talk about something fun. We're going to actually tell you, don't lift the arms in the backswing.
What?
Okay, so here's the operative word is force direction.
Okay.
Force direction.
Got it.
Okay, so let's just look at like certain swinging mechanisms. So if you're sitting in a swing set and you go, Riley, push me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, which direction do I initially push you?
That way.
That way.
Yep.
So we would call it like kind of a horizontal vector. I'm pushing in that direction.
Level to the ground.
Sure.
For sure.
And when you start off, you get chugging and you're going this way. But then pretty soon, which direction do you start going?
Up.
You start going up. Oh, interesting. So if I go, or like if I'm pushing you and it's kind of this like casual push and you're kind of swinging and you're like, this is all well and good, but I want to go higher, Riley. Right? You'll say higher, higher, right?
Yes.
Like every little kid's like, higher, Dad.
Yep.
And then where does Dad push? Do they do this all of a sudden?
No, they just push harder in that same direction. Correct.
And eventually where does the kid go?
Further up.
Further up. Is this shoulder flexion? Just that act?
Yeah, right?
Yes.
It is.
Is this shoulder flexion?
It is.
Yeah.
So I like the way his assistant is confused to answer that in case he gets demerits or something. So what he's basically talking about is the connection between your chest and your hands, which is basically connecting your club head to your chest. So I can kind of see where he's going to go with this in talking about the faster you take this club back, the more your arms can go to that secondary plane line. Now, it's my opinion that the arms do move up and down because you have to go from that primary plane line to the secondary plane line. However that is, it could be much higher, it could be much lower, whatever your personal preference is and how your body makeup is set to. However, to keep your arms truly down in the lower plane line without having them lift up is virtually impossible. I'm going to show you this real quick. Okay, real quick, we could pick any golfer in the world, but let's just throw up Nelly Korda, for instance. So we're talking about the arm hang here. It does have to get to the secondary plane line. Now, the secondary plane line would like to be, if she was a robot, it would usually run parallel to her lower plane line, but we're not all robots. Let's just see what happens to her. She does get to that secondary plane line slightly lower, and there could be some cause and effect for that. You can tell her hand cuts right by her hips. Now, if we go to the top of the swing, we can see the hand cuts up by the shoulders, so the hands do raise up in the golf swing, and you have to raise them up. If it were not the case, if we keep our hands right where they were at the start of our swing, then we start to see our arms way down in this territory, and if your arms are down in this territory, there is no leverage. So the upward motion is creating significant leverage.
If we want like a more stable club face, so what is that? It's a club face that doesn't rotate as hard through the strike.
Right, so it stays more or less square here.
So what TJ is showing, yeah, and square to what?
Square to the path you're swinging on.
There you go,
right?
a general plane or path.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, square, yeah, right?
Yep,
So,
I get it.
Yeah, so the harder that is rotating, we would deem that, us in our academy, as unstable. Be set up to a golf ball.
Sure.
And swing the golf club up. And it doesn't need to be crazy exaggerated, but send force in the arms up. There you go. From there, the player is going to have to stop the arms in some way. And the way that you did that is you created an equal and opposite force in the opposing direction or vector.
Interesting. Okay, so to stop the arms going up there forever, I had to add a force basically down.
And we'll be able to see that. Watch this. Do that again, but do it hard.
Okay.
So it bounces up here. Feel it like go here and then it slightly bounces back. That's the force. And we see that in fascia. Yeah, so it's bouncing back down vertical in a vertical plane.
Okay, so makes sense so far. However, the speed of your backswing can adjust that too. If you have a very fast backswing, you will see the recoil at the top. If you have a slow controlled swing, you won't see as much recoil. It's very easy to stop it. That's why when I work with new players, we talk about speed control. So we learn from a slower motion because that allows you to turn more and keep your hands more connected to that turn, because if you all of a sudden just think about getting your hands to secondary plan 9, you do start to lift it up and all of a sudden you get disconnected from your chest. But everything always stems around rotation. So what he is basically saying is the more your body can turn and be involved in staying in its posture, the less your hands and arms will be relied upon. And when he showed you that motion of him really opening that club face and throwing his hands to release that club face, it does occur more so with the amateurs because they can't turn enough or they get disconnected, and that's where the arms take over and the arms go too far back. And if you watch my videos, we always talk about the top position. Your arms do not go further back than the turn of your chest, or you would like that to occur. Now keep in mind that the arms do cross the chest. They go right to left, maybe from right shoulder to left shoulder at the most. So there is some lateral motion with the hands and arms. You cannot keep your hands truly connected to your center of your chest all the way through. That poses another issue. But this really does sound like square to square. And square to square was popularized in the 60s and 70s, keeping the club face square to the swing path for as long as possible during the swing, specifically in the first part of the swing, which kind of sounds like this already. Or in other words, keep it as square as long as possible before you do have to break away and get to your secondary plane line. So some of the things to look for this moving forward in this video is the setup. Is it a square setup? The minimal wrist rotation is what I'm going to look for. The neutral grip, and more specifically is the takeaway. More of a straight back takeaway instead of allowing the hands to go with the body turn. So if we can start to see some of this in this video, if you want to go pick up a book on square to square, it's from Jim Flick and Dick Altman, and they co-authored this book. It was called The Square to Square Golf Swing in 1969. So I'm going to look at my notes from square to square. I got them somewhere, and I'm going to just keep referencing this because this sounds very similar to square so far, and we'll see if it breaks away in his own theory. But bottom line, golf swing, just remember, if you're a dog, does the dog wag the tail or does the tail wag the dog? Let's keep watching.
If we're in that transitionary phase up there,
Sure.
which direction is the force going now?
Down.
Okay, and for your body, because your body is always there to support the swinging action of the arms, hands, and club. So the arms are going down. What would your body have to do in order to support that? Rise.
Rise
Exactly.
a little bit, yeah.
Because if I just go back here and I just send energy down, that's not going to be good relative to where the golf ball would be. So you've got to create, there you go. So the space that you've got to create is based on, typically we talk about it in hip extension or spine extension to create this room that now I can deliver the golf club in here.
So I like the way he explained that, talking about the two options that you do have. Number one is maintaining your posture. He forgot to talk about turn though, because the turn, if you maintain your posture, you can now turn and your hand rotation will keep up with that turn and put you in position to release. But what I like about this is the fact that he said you go down. Most amateurs don't have the room to counteract that force, so they do stand up and they get real flippy at impact like he demonstrated there. So that's good that he talked about both case scenarios. I would have liked to see him talk a little bit more about turn and how that keeps those hands more in connection. So far I do like this explanation.
Typically what we see in force of their body, like directionality of body, like if we're more of an extension kind of a pattern, vertical force player, the idea is we're going to send force downward.
Got it.
Justin Thomas would be one of those guys.
More vertical force.
For those that are confused about this vertical force, just think steeper. Those that are steeper.
So let's get back to this like swing set idea.
Let's do it.
So the arms are the chains.
All right.
Okay, go ahead and set up to the golf ball.
Okay.
Send the golf club at my shin. Send force here. There you go. Okay, now set up again. Turn towards the camera. Don't do anything with the arms. Okay, now if you sent the arms, and you can pump them too, like if the arms came back kind of underneath you, and then you sent force in the club head, like the center mass of the club, at the camera.
Oh, that was actually really cool. I didn't expect that to happen.
Here,
Okay, so remember we talked about square to square. One of the basic principles from square to square is keeping that club path more on the line of your target as opposed to just going with the turn. This demonstrates a little bit of that, as while that gentleman's turning, he's feeling like that club head is moving out and away from him. In reality, all that does is when you get the arms to go out and away and you turn, it negates that and it keeps the club path more straight towards your target. This is a way I used to swing about 10 or 15 years ago when my body could allow it, and it does actually work. And I did find some great benefits to this. My ball flight was much straighter. I didn't have a lot of deviation because when I do stay more connected to my turn, my hands are more relied upon. But obviously, to do this motion, you have to be pretty flexible on your left side to maintain that turn and get that stretch as it's moving more out and away from you. So he's trying to accomplish a couple things. He's trying to widen the separation between his hands and his chest as wide as it can go and keep it turning out in front of him. So this is a great connection drill, and I do like it for those that suffer from pulling the club inside if their body can take it. Now that's the thing, is if your body can do this. So in theory, this sounds great. It's really good for people that need it, but just be careful if you try to apply it. Make sure it's good for your body and your body can take it.
So what you just did is the center mass of the club you sent that way, but this is, it's not going to just keep going. Eventually, this is the swinging point, and with enough force, it did pop up, but the force direction is not here.
It's not up.
It's there.
It's very, very level. That's
exactly.
interesting.
Okay.
There you go. So he's keeping that force direction out and on the same line as his target, which is very square to square.
So let's just hit one. We'll just start with this idea.
Sure.
So your job, your midline right now is pointing here. Your chest needs to rotate the midline away so it points more towards the camera. And once it does that, you send force at the camera through the club head system. There you go. Go ahead and hit one at like 60%. Beautiful look right there. Midline force. Excellent.
You know what I have to do, right? I have to actually go and download that swing and look at what he wants him to do and we compare the two, but I'll have to just do that at the end of this video, but I will edit it in right now. So here we have the before and after. Befores are going to be in yellow with a vertical line, and the afters are going to be yellow horizontal lines, so you know which one is which. Now we take a look at the one on the left and the right. For the midway back, we can see that the one on the left is the practice swing. It is obviously going to be a little bit steeper just because we're trying to get that feel of what that club is like to move out and away. Now, is it really moving out and away? It's hard to tell from this camera angle. It does look like the arms are moving with that turn. In relation to the center of his chest, we can still see that that club is pointing to the center of his chest. So this is a very good takeaway while it is truly connected to the turn. Now notice his instructions. When he first introduced this move to that gentleman, what he talked about was trying to get the arms more out towards his left side. He would need his arms to be more connected to the left side only to accentuate the feeling that he is trying to get. All in all, pretty close before and after. The one on the bottom, we can see slight difference. Now obviously this isn't all the way to the top of his swing, but this was the top of his practice swing, and we can see that the depth of the club is about the only difference, and the height of the hands. Does this look exaggerated? To me, not necessarily. It just looks like a good golf swing. Keep in mind, we don't know what this gentleman in the white shirt swing looks like anyway. He could be a fellow instructor of this gentleman's academy or a disciple that is doing this swing anyway, so it is hard to know what goes on out there. But all in all, I'd say that's a pretty good effort in terms of the feel versus real, so I think he did that correctly.
Like vertical force, right? I'm running the arms down. I've got to stand to create room.
Correct.
Well, if I go turn horizontal force here, so I sent force away, from here, if I drop, like think of, especially in my spine, just in general, my spine's on this angle. If I drop, so I'm going into more hip flexion this way, see where my spine starts to move? It starts to move in this direction.
Yeah, it starts to change incline a little bit, for sure.
That's exactly right. And perpendicular to that, to my spine in general, if I'm dropping, what all of a sudden is perpendicular to my spine?
The golf ball. Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So if this arm gets sent boom, back away, so it's in shoulder flexion, as I drop, now I don't have to send force down. I don't have to go into extension of the shoulder anymore. Instead, I can go straight into AB duction, this hit.
Okay.
Which force direction is that going?
That's level again.
That's
right?
level again, so it's not this vertical.
Okay, so now let's watch that again, because this is something that I want you to pay attention to because it might be misleading. So let's watch the first explanation here.
Arm gets sent boom, back away, so it's in shoulder flexion. As I drop, Now I don't have to send force down. I don't have to go in.
Okay, you see that force down. Now look at the action of his arms. His arms are going down into the ground. What's connected to his wrists? The club. So the club will actually be able to strike down into the golf ball. Now watch the next one.
No extension of the shoulder anymore. Instead, I can go straight into abduction.
So there's that second one that he would like you to try to emulate. But the problem is if he's holding the club, where's the club pointing? The club's pointing in the sky. There's no way to get that club down into the golf ball. So how can you get the club down to the golf ball from that position? You're going to have to do some really interesting things with your body to try and manipulate that to get the club down to the ground. So don't let this fool you. Now, I think what he's trying to explain is the feeling that he might have, but reality, you're not hitting the ball from that position. Your arms do have to go down. So this is where some misleading stuff can occur. And again, to get in that physical position with your body, the way this gentleman is trying to explain it, it is very hard. It's reserved for a very small percentage of golfers out there. And most likely, this is not going to work for you. It is a good explanation of what I believe is just a square-to-square method to hit the golf ball, which was done 60 years ago. So the one issue with modern day instruction is the reinvention of names, and we see it now. We see adduction, we see flexion, extension. All it is steep, shallow, rotation, this renaming of things going on here. Now, I don't know if this gentleman's familiar with square to square, and he might have found this out on his own and think, hey, this might be the new way to swing. Let's call it whatever this is, the no arm backswing. But the reality is it's already been done before, and there's been books written about it. The instructional game of the golf swing has been around for a few hundred years, and it's been all done before. Now, the biggest changes in the golf swing came when it went from hickory to steel. Now, obviously, steel shaft versus hickory shaft, the club works differently, so the swing will evolve. It's like stack and tilt just came automatically with the invention of steel shaft. Now, some 50 years later, they coined this thing stack and tilt, but if you take a look at the old swingers of the game, they were stack and tilt by default from the club.
It's more of that.
Yes.
So abduction.
Yes. So AB, just so like we're defining things, abduction is away from you. Adduction is into.
Got it.
Okay? So in the hit, once we've gone midline turn, send force away. Now I'm dropping, but see, I'm not doing anything with my arms yet. They're just floating in space back here. The lead arm will abduct as the trail arm adducts. Abducts. Goes across. There you go. But it's a forward direction. Even if you're trying to hit down here, you're not trying to throw the axe down, you're still trying to throw the axe forward. There you go.
Interesting, yeah.
It's a forward vector.
Changes the intention. So
there
the
you
last
go.
one I got in here.
Yep. And this one we're gonna, that's exactly right.
We're going to have to look at that one on slow-mo just to see what really happened. So here's before and after. Now, the one on the right side is when we struck it. We can definitely see some increase of tilt. So we see that the old one and the new one. Now, obviously, we need to keep our tilting down because we're striking down on it. So I get what this change is. However, he did not increase that tilt as much as he would like to have based on the whole point of the video is to go down while you can move your hands more across your chest left to escape that force, what he describes as not up and down. If this really happened, we would not be able to see his hands because his hands would be further left of that triangle as the force escapes laterally left, not so much up and down. The fact that he is still connected to the right side of his triangle, if we draw that triangle as best as we can see it's still favoring the right side, which means that his body is doing a great job of maintaining this posture and turning through. The arms, however, did not cross as much left to right. Now, this is how I'm understanding his video. I could be misunderstanding it, but basically what I've heard is we would like to see the hands disappear at this point as he is able to turn more and get the hands to cross the chest left to make his force escape more left and not more down. Okay, so my thoughts, it makes a lot of sense on paper. Doing this is going to be a challenge just because you need the body style to do this and the strength to do this. Now, there is a slight misconception because even if you get as much forward bend with your booty, as he said, sticking all the way out, and you lower it exactly perpendicular, that perpendicular is going to be different depending on the height of your hands. So if my hands are at the top versus at the bottom, it's either going to be above the ball or below the ball. So there could be some issues issues with that too. Do I subscribe to this with my students? Depends on the student, if they physically can do it, and I've worked with really good players that are looking to go professional. Yes, we might tinker with some of this. Is it anything new? Not necessarily. A lot of this is rehashed and reworded. Just remember this. As I said before, the golf swing has been around for hundreds of years. There's been many ways to do it, many books written about it, and it's basically like the fitness industry. And the one thing that I fear is students watching this, coming back to my lessons and saying they want to swing like this, and I have to be the one to tell them it's not going to work for you. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? And if you have any suggestions for me to watch, send me some more videos. I'll watch them, comments on them to help you out. But other than that, I will see you next time. Fairways and greens.